We are live right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ryan Stick Show, the first inaugural video version of this caliber. I mean, look, we got titles, and I got to guess what's going on, Brian Rodiguez.
Not much. Excited to be here. As you can see, I still have my quarantine haircut, so I apologize to your visual audience for my appearance.
Oh, dude, it's all good, dude. We are all slumming it, and we should be slumming it. And everybody on Instagram who looks all hot during all this, like, I'm trying to keep my language better, but could you stop?
Yeah, I don't get it, but whatever. I don't care. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, as I sit on my back porch holding my unexercised gut and swimming in my own tears as you're on a beach like you're on a film shoot. Can we all look a little crappier? Anyway, yeah, people are going to be jumping in later and stuff like that, but I just wanted to start off the show saying I am a very easily flattered person, so you have to understand that today Charlie Talbert, a mutual friend of ours who starred in the movie Angus, he told me about your show, and then he told you about my show, and he told me about a movie he loves called 3 O'Clock High. So the first thing I did was hop on that wagon and say to myself, I got to watch this movie. If Charlie likes this movie that much, maybe he likes 3 O'Clock High as much as I like Angus. And I watch it today, and I'm like, great. Now I get to listen to a High School Slumber Party's episode about it. And the first thing in the introduction, and I'm not paying attention, and then I hear it's like, oh, he did an interview with the director. I'm like, oh, I guess he did another one. And then it's like, yeah, Ryan Stick Show. And I dropped the phone. I'm like, what? So I was like, I was very moved by you saying such kind words, because it's kind of like another person that puts all of our spare time reminding people how awesome the 80s and 90s are. And it's really nice to know that like we're part of this unit. And yeah, for sure. I love your podcast, dude. I think it's just awesome.
Well,
I think
really,
your podcast is awesome.
Really appreciate it. I just want to back you up on that shout out to Charlie Talbert, because like, what a dude, right? So, I didn't really know about Angus. I didn't grow up with Angus. I stumbled upon it because my guest who I brought on, Kate Hudson, loved the movie, watched it, really enjoyed it. Charlie listened to it. Charlie hopped on. We had such a fun. Well, one, he's been on a couple episodes now, but we had such a fun episode talking just his story. And oh my god, I'm not trying to plug my show right now, but
you should. No, we are plugging your show. Your show is an important podcast because it makes me happy, and there's not a lot to be happy about these days. So you're you're better than Prozac, okay?
But fair.
Not the band, the pill. The band is amazing.
Well, but when Charlie went on, God, his story, like the tears, the laughs, it was just so amazing. And we were talking a little bit off air. He is such a nice guy. And he was so insistent on doing 3 O'Clock High. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I'd never seen that film either. But wow, this is like a sleeper film, 3 O'Clock High. If you guys out there have not seen that film, watch that film, because I really enjoyed it. And not that I didn't expect to enjoy it. Honestly, if you listen to my show these days, I enjoy everything. But this is legitimately a fun film. And I love when people come on my show and they're passionate about something. And Charlie was so goddamn passionate about it. Like I said, it was just awesome.
I'm just sharing. I'm just making sure people are tuning in. I'm sharing the link around. I just shared it. I tried to spell watch, but I didn't. So everybody is like, hey, tune in, watch this. Yeah, man. Okay, so as we begin this show, man, 3 O'Clock High, you're totally right. And I'm so glad that he said it. And it's amazing how you think you can you think you can know something, and you think you could be like almost like I'm kind of a know-it-all about 80s movies because I saw the Monster Squad when no kids were allowed to watch it. But no, I watched 3 O'Clock High, and the first thing I noticed about it is the direction, the editing and direction, and the zoom ins, the little things. I'm like, this could be a John Hughes type movie if it wasn't for that Sam Raimi edginess to zooming around. And I'm like, but it's not Sam Raimi. And then I listened to your show. I'm like, oh, it's Barry Sonnenfeld, director of Men in Black, Addams Family. He's a videographer. And I'm like, cinematographer. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That guy loves those close-ups.
Absolutely.
Loves them. Yeah.
It makes so much sense. And that's one of my favorite things about doing the High School Slumber Party podcast is just finding these chains from like a 70s movie that leads to someone who worked on that in an 80s movie, who leads to someone who worked on that in a 90s movie, a movie today. Like this, it's all related, and it's so awesome, especially again in that film. When I first started the podcast, I was like, maybe I'd get like 3 years if I could squeeze 4 years out of this. Now I'm just like, screw it. I don't know how long this is going to take. There are so many high school movies that I didn't even realize or anticipate. I haven't even covered not even 25% of all the classics. So but you know what? It's awesome. I have so much fun. Like I put it out there, and you guys, please listen to it. But if you don't, whatever. I have so much fun recording. Like it's really, especially in this quarantine time when I'm not really talking to too many people. But it's been great.
Well, you know what? I'm a terrible host. I should have asked you. I'm like, hey, Brian, what's your secret origin? I'm sure your parents weren't killed in an alley by a mugger to start a podcast.
Actually, no. No.
Okay.
How I started the podcast? Yeah. Well, so I had done another podcast with my friend about Kyle Reinfried. I need to name drop him. He'll get mad. But me and Kyle did this podcast called P.S. I Love Hoffman. We still do it occasionally, but it was all the films of the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman, maybe the greatest actor ever. We had a blast doing that, but he passed away, and that was finite. And I knew I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to do something that, as weird as it sounds, I wanted to do something that wasn't like, didn't have a specific order and didn't have a specific genre. Because when you commit to doing a podcast, it's not just the recording stuff. You're editing, you're promoting, you're doing all that. So you want to, you want to, if you're going to get married, you want it to be with someone you can spend your life with, So, so I chose this medium because I was like, wow, I like so many teen films, but there's also so many that I haven't seen before. Plus, I wasn't 100% satisfied with my own high school experience. And it was a kind of, as sad as it sounds, it was a way to relive high school through all these films. And honestly, it's been a blast. It's exceeded my expectations. And I've met so many great people, including Charlie, through it, that, it's pretty simple origins. There's no cool little story around it. But like I said, I look forward. I'm twice a week these days during quarantine because I have a little bit more time. And it's just been a blast.
There's something really to say about the high school experience versus this experience we all saw in the movies before we went to high school. There's a Canadian show called Student Bodies that I now, through another series I have a show called You, Me, and YTV, and I used to watch these actors that are now my friends, but since have interviewed and over the years, over 5 years, have become friends with. Mm-hmm. But I remember watching their show and getting excited about high school because these kind of shows were the shows that weren't the Scared Straight programs. They're more the high school kid, be fun. And movies that would reflect that kind of energy would be like 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, yeah.
And if you watch 10 Things I Hate About You and then watch Freaks and Geeks, the series, it's like the Twilight Zone. It's supposed to be about high school, but is it?
No, and that's what's awesome. And again, in this genre, you have so many subgenres because just obviously the stuff like horror, comedy. That's the easy stuff. But then you have high school movies that are made for children. When I say children, I mean like middle schoolers or younger. You have high school movies, which is kind of rare, made for actual high schoolers. And you also have a big genre of high school movies made for adults. So if you mix all that around, and especially when you're going into high school in your formative years and you watch this stuff, like I'm a big Ferris Bueller fan. I wish I could be Ferris Bueller. Every nerd wants to be Ferris Bueller. He's the king of the nerds. Ferris Bueller does not exist in real life, unfortunately, because that guy doesn't get cool, He's not captain of the football team. He's a computer nerd who everyone loves. That doesn't really happen,
Yeah, it's kind of like everybody else is just a bunch of Camerons,
So true.
True. Did you have a real life type of Ferris Bueller that when you looked at him, you felt like a Cameron being like, why does he get away with everything?
I just knew a lot more Camerons, like the Ferris, maybe not so much, but I have so many friends who I look back on and like, wow, you were a Cameron, but I don't know. It's hard to pin yourself on one character or another, especially those John Hughes films, which are so important to kids growing up, because they show a real like mirror into what the high school experience is like, but it's not realistic, if that makes sense. It's only like the first step into being like, oh, I'm a kid and my problems are real. So it's, you know, whatever. I talk about this too much on my show.
It's all good. Well, you know, Brian, that's water. It's not beer. Yeah, what you're bringing up about John Hughes, and sometimes it could be so real and so surreal. When you look at 16 Candles, like there's a very over the top party scene, but then he could, you know, back himself up, still star Molly Ringwald, and make The Breakfast Club. Now, The Breakfast Club is a pretty realistic movie until they smoke some weed, and I think John Hughes got the wrong memo of what drugs do, because that doesn't happen.
Especially Emilio Estevez, when he has his moment in like, I don't know, it's like that glass enclosure, and he's like, freaking out. I'm like, dude, it's the 80s. That's cocaine. That's not weed. You're totally wrong. That is a hilarious moment.
Amelia, I don't know what kind of prank your brother's playing on you about what drugs do, but that is not the case.
Yeah, you totally see that. He goes home. He's like, Charlie, what does pot do? He's like, it does that. Like, sure, you know.
Everybody who drops in, drops out. Just make sure you leave comments below, because we're going to be talking about stuff. Let us know what your favorite high school movie is, and it doesn't matter what decade. It could have been 5, could have been this year. Because some of there's the trend of movies, they still happen. Not as I think John Hughes was the first director to really give a voice to teenagers in a non-condescending way. Mm-hmm. Like in the 70s, there was stuff about teenagers, but it was a lot of scared straight stuff. Like, and you know, and it's something fascinating. Has anybody actually ever asked you to cover Porky's?
Porky's is on the list, but it's that's going to be an interesting episode. That is not a movie that aged well.
I know it didn't age well, but I watched them recently. And the funny thing is, I have a projector out in the backyard, and we put it on. And about 5 minutes into it, we realized, like, I can't get away with the language and my neighbors, because I'm like, no, you don't get it. It's context. but in actuality, it's a movie that was made in the very early 80s, about the 50s, when terrible language was much more of a common thing. So it was kind of like, it was a reaction to the history about it. But what I love about Porky's, and I hope this is not a spoiler of any kind, this movie, although a horny teenage sex comedy, has so many like social justice messages in it. And it's actually kind of nuts. Between Porky's 1 and Porky's 2, Porky's 1, they have a friend that's kind of like that jerk friend that says all the racial slurs, and they're like, "Oh, Tim," and there's this Jewish kid that comes to their school, and his name's Brian, and Brian's always calling him all this stuff and all the terrible words, and he ends up challenging him to a fight. But then this Jewish kid kicks his ass, kicks his ass, punches his face and stuff, and then the kid comes back, and then this Tim guy comes back to school the next day, and he's black and blue. And Brian's like, I didn't do that to him. He's like, no, that's what his old man did to him when he told him he lost a fight to a Jewish guy.
Oh my God.
And so you find out that his old man's really the monster in this. And then, you know, spoilers, by movie's end, not only is this Tim and Brian best friends now, but he finally stands up to his father and his friends, who, instead of just casting him out, being like, Tim, you're a dick. You'll always be a dick. I never want to speak to you again. You are deleted on Facebook. I kind of like it when everybody kind of held on to each other enough to actually find a resolution without, just cutting the strings. And, you know, as a result, this Tim guy is going to be a better person the rest of his life because, you know, of the environment his friends made. So I'm saying Porky's, it's about people putting their dicks in holes, but at the same time, there's something there. There's something there.
Well, that's great to hear. I haven't seen it in a while, and I make it as a rule, like, I don't watch the movies again until I do them, because I want those like fresh reactions. So hey, you resold me on Porky's. We'll put it that way. That's Canadian film too, right?
Canadian film, directed by Bob Clark, who also directed A Christmas Story. Yeah, and he also directed Black Christmas. So it's kind of funny that he kind of started 3 genres of film. This guy, Bob Clark, like, he started like the slasher, the holiday slasher film that John Carpenter would later say, hey, that's how I got the idea for Halloween. I really like Black Christmas. and then Porky's, which would inspire American Pie and every other one of those movies. And then with Christmas Story, it's like, the kind of like dark humored Christmas tale that would be followed later by, I guess, Bad Santa and stuff like that. So kind of amazing that all this one guy managed to touch all these lives.
That's awesome.
Have you ever, I brought up Porky's right now, and you're like, oh, I've heard stuff about that. Has there ever been a movie when you said, okay, we're going to do this episode, but then you watch it and you're like, we can't do this episode. I just won't do this episode.
So I've never done that, I won't do that. Like, I'm going to give everything justice and just talk about it. I'm not going to skirt away from the issues. But believe it or not, you mentioned it earlier. One of the films that I was really shocked about that does not age well is 16 Candles, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
16 Candles, when I saw it as a teenager, I'm like, oh, this cute, innocent tale. John Hughes is great. You watch that now, and so John Hughes came out of the National Lampoon School of Comedy, and 16 Candles is his first like teenage film like that, and he still is relying on a lot of the National Lampoon's humor and jokes. It gets Long Duck Dong, very racist character, first of all, very bad. But beyond that, Jake Ryan, who for years everyone was saying was the perfect guy, is terrible. Like, he lets his girlfriend get essentially kidnapped and drunk driven by Anthony Michael Hall's character to be essentially, I don't want to even say essentially, to be raped. Like 16 Candles. And I watch it every year for our podcast birthday. just try to, I'm not going to escape these issues just to talk about it. And there are some great moments in it, starting with Molly Ringwald, who you mentioned before. She's great. There's a lot of good in it, but there's a lot of like, what the hell was this man thinking when he wrote this?
There's I'm glad you brought up the character. What was the Asian gentleman in 16 Candles' name again? It was
Long Duck Dong.
Long Duck. Oh my God. Okay. Well, Long Duck Dong, I believe, was also in Revenge of the Nerds, which is another movie that is, has its moments and ages in a different way. You look at through a different prism. We all have more Jiminy Crickets on our shoulders now. But the fascinating thing about him, I found out recently, is that he was the voice actor who played Leonardo in the Ninja Turtle live action movies.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's like, I never said I was a great leader. And when Raph wakes up, he's just like, he's awake, bring food. And I'm like, and I can hear his voice. And I'm like, there he is.
That's so weird when that happens. When you figure that out and you make that connection. What the hell? By the way, were you the voice in that movie? Because you're really good at that.
Oh, thank you. Both my girlfriend and I have part of the reasons why we fell in love is that we remember movies when we were kids verbatim, and would annoy our family to no extent with our recreations of entire scenes.
That's awesome.
Wait, sweetie, do you want to do Splinter?
Ooh,
no,
yes.
No, you do Raph. Raphael, what is wrong?
I lost the soy.
Then it is gone.
I can get it back.
Oh man, one of my favorite scenes in Ninja. Have you done Ninja Turtles? Is that a High School Slumber Party movie?
It's tough, right? Because they're technically teenagers, right? But I don't know.
But I watched it all through my teens. I don't know. You're right, though, man. It's your show.
I love the Turtles revival that's happening right now. Just the appreciation for all of it, like the new toys that come out, and like it's awesome.
I ordered a book today written by the guy who played Raphael, like the stuntman, because all I want to know is everything about that movie. But that movie, like, some movies we love, there's like, here's this special feature, here's the Blu-ray, here's this edition. And they make so many editions where you almost don't respect it anymore. That movie has remained kind of like a mystery where like, well, who did direct it? Like, what were they thinking? Like,
You're right.
This is the biggest cartoon in the world, but yet they decided to take an independent movie, film it completely on their own. Like Mirage Studios, who created the Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, they said, no, we're not going to make a movie that's kind of like, hey. They did that in the second and third. But the first movie was that like garage band version of Ninja Turtles that was dark and gritty. I just fell in love with it. And yeah, as a kid, I don't know, it didn't warp me. I'm not a violent person. I'm a wuss. Oh man. Okay, so we're talking about your show, and you've been doing it for a long time. You have like what, 200 episodes now?
Not quite 200, 130 something, but I've been doing it for over 2 years.
I'm making a banner for you right now, right now. And as I make this banner for you, I want to say, like, what was a movie that you watched during the show besides 3 O'Clock High, where you're like, wow, I'm so glad I did this episode because I never appreciated the movie as much as I do because of this.
I'll have to go through the list. It happens all the time, which is
What's one
awesome.
besides 3 O'Clock High? What's one that you think is kind of fresh?
Let's see, because I've done a bunch that I haven't aired yet that have been really cool.
That is not yours. Sorry, wrong thing. Please go ahead, go for it.
This random movie I just recorded the episode on. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but I had so much fun watching the movie and talking about it. I actually just have the Blu-ray next to me. It's called, probably can't say it. It's called Corvette Summer.
Okay.
It's 1979. It stars Mark Hamill, fresh off Star Wars, and it's just this weird tale of him basically falling in love with a Corvette and a girl, and spending his summer in Vegas. It's not going to change your life or anything like that, but it would. There's no more 1979 film. There's a hooked up van in it. You know, it's just. I mean, that's what's fresh on my mind right now. But there's so much cool stuff. And lately, I've been into like the movie before the movie before the movie.
Okay.
An example of that is I just recorded an episode. I'm not sure when this one is even coming out, for this movie called Over the Edge with Matt Dillon. It's Matt Dillon's first film.
Everybody knows that. Yeah. I haven't seen it, but everyone's just like, oh my God, this guy, Matt Dillon, he's going to change the face of professional baseball.
But that film is like a film that everyone knows, but no one's seen, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, like, you can see so many influences. It's not perfect at all, but you can see so many influences in other later films. Specifically, like Richard Linklater says, like, what's one of his huge inspirations for Dazed and Confused. Kurt Cobain says that's one of his favorite films. He based the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video off that film. Like, this is
man, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I love seeing stuff like that. I watched this film, and we talked about it, this really, really B-level film. I'm not saying it's great, but it was called Gimme an F, and I did like a cheerleading series.
Okay.
So I had covered maybe like 6 or 7 cheerleading movies. And, you know, Bring It On, all the classics. And then I did this movie, and I realized that almost every film that came after it took 1 or 2 elements from this random movie that no one else knew or saw. And I tried to do a deep dive, and like the directors and the writers would admit that they watched this film. And I just love discovering the little stuff like that. Trust me, I love the classics. We recently did Ferris Bueller, which again might be my favorite high school film. And it was as amazing as I remembered and I thought it would be. So, like, you know, I'm not going to knock it for just being as good as I wanted it to be, but I love finding those little hidden gems that no one's ever heard of too.
You know, I really like Weird Science, except for that part where Anthony Michael Hall starts speaking in a weird voice for like 20 minutes for no reason. And I just say that because there's no reason why his character should be doing this. Like that's that part. Yeah, man, it's nuts. Like every film goes through these phases where something's popular, they make a crap ton of them. And American Pie was like a reawakening of that like high school like drive, especially the sexy comedies, because I remember just watching American Pie, but all of a sudden She's All That and 10 Things I Hate About You, Whatever It Takes, all these other movies would they're starting to pop them out. And I remember just kind of being like of age, but always looking at everybody like, I'm like, aren't all these people 30?
It's something we talk about a lot on my show. By the way, deep cut on Whatever It Takes. Not many people know that film, but it's something we talk about a lot. And I used to make fun of it more, but I get it a lot more now that I've seen more films, because you're putting, and I'm not advocating this, but you're putting someone in a very sexual situation.
Yeah.
Much better if they're 30 than 15.
That's a good point. That's a good point, actually.
That's usually why they do it, because they feel thank God they feel a little bit weird over sexualizing a high schooler. Now I wish they kind of felt more weird about the overall idea of it, but still, it is what it is. But funny you mentioned American Pie. Everyone cites that as like the real bringing back the sex comedy. But American Pie doesn't get greenlit. 10 Things I Hate About You. These films don't get greenlit without the success of Scream. Scream is what told Hollywood, wow, teen movies are bankable again. Because if you take like the Hughes films to Scream, now look, Clueless, which I love, is in this span. But Clueless is probably one of the only films in that gap that was a hit and was critically acclaimed. That is one of the low points between Scream and like the end of the John Hughes films in the 80s. Studios just didn't really care anymore about those films. Scream makes money, American Pie gets greenlit, and it moves on until What You're Saying. And then we get all these like Get Over It and films like that kind of just like it peters off.
Do you think it had anything to do with the popularity of 90210 when they're like, I think everyone gets enough high school from television these days?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just talking about this with somebody like, oh, why don't you do TV shows? Because I don't want to be doing this till I'm dead, though. That's
I have a great idea for you, man. They're at Degrassi High, which 90210 stole all their ideas from. A low budget Canadian television show about being about kind of as a scared straight program with more scenes. They have this movie when the whole series finished called School's Out. And dark crap happens to all these kids that you watch grow up for the last 7 to 8 years. It's called Degrassi High, School's Out. If you are going to do one, that's an actual movie. It wasn't theatrical, but it was released as a TV movie, so it kind of counts. That is something interesting to touch on because there's no happy endings in that movie. In the style of pure Degrassi. Yeah. It's
Brian,
nuts.
Are you booking yourself? Are you booking yourself on my show?
I was booking myself this morning. I was like, want to be on my show? That way I could guilt you into being on mine. Being on yours. Oh, but man,
I would love to cover that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, there's so much love to it too, because what I loved about watching your show, listening to your show too, and going through the list, I plan on listening to all of them, but my first instinct is to go through movies I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them, and I was thrilled to know that you have also seen Anna in the Apocalypse, because you're the other one.
That was our Christmas movie one year. If you want to know a void in teen films, not a lot of Christmas movies, believe it or not. So we covered that. I liked it a little bit more than my guests, but that was a fun movie. I think we watched it in theater and then covered it. But I mean, when do you get a zombie Christmas teenage crossover film? So I don't know.
Musical. Don't forget musical.
Musical. Yes, musical. Yeah, and that's what's great. Like, I don't want to just do the hits. Like, it's fun to just play the hits, but finding some of these other obscure films is so cool. And I don't honestly. Please listen to every episode. I love that you said that, but
yeah,
I think that.
Well, I'm going to try my best.
You can cherry pick. Anyone who's into anything can cherry pick enough episodes and still listen to a bunch of them. You know, some people are not into horror. Like when I started this podcast, I wasn't really into horror, but I'm getting into it more because there's so much teenage horror. It's something where, again, you'll find something that you like in all the movies we've done and what I continue to do as well.
Yeah. Sorry, just a second. I'm realizing I got to premiere a little photo. My friend's kid, he made me a character in Minecraft. And that is so, I'm so touched because I don't know what Minecraft is, but apparently everyone else does. And it's very beloved. So, yeah, I just got to show, I'm going to be Saber, I'm uploading this photo. Okay. We're going to be looking at it in just a minute, but now I got to ask Brian a really cool question. You were mentioning teen horror and how Scream relit everything. I remember being so excited that, me and this guy, God, great language. I used to be in a lot of bands and stuff. And the first band I ever had was with a friend, and we were essentially Beavis and Butthead. We'd watch music videos all day. And our parents, I remember, to get into Scream 2, they bought us the tickets, went to see another movie, and with the ticket, we snuck into Scream 2. And I remember that feeling of excitement of, oh man, they might catch us. And do I miss that as a 36-year-old man who gets to do whatever he wants? Is there a movie?
I was gonna say in these times you don't get to do whatever you want. So
well, when it comes to watching wise, you just got to be a little clever. Is there a movie that you watched when you were like a kid that you had to get your parents to buy you a ticket for, or had to go through various degrees of sneaking to achieve visual success?
Honestly, not really. My parents were they didn't really bring me to those kind of movies.
Okay.
And they certainly weren't movies like that. The most I would do is, honestly, in slumber parties. Friends who maybe their parents were a little bit more liberal. American Pie being one of them, seeing that at a friend's house or for a sleepover or something like that, Not really the sneaking into theaters thing. The most was like stuff like The Matrix and stuff, which is technically rated R, but I don't know. It's rated R because it's violent, not rated R because there's something racy in it.
What do you, that's a good question. I'm really glad you're asking this. And right before I ask you this, Saber, this is the photo you made me. Look at that. That is me in my pumpkin jacket that I'm not wearing now because it's hot as hell. But everybody, Saber made me this, and I am so happy. Please make art of me, everybody. Keep drawing me. Immortalize me with your brushes and your pencils. Yeah, we were talking. Sorry, got lost track there. Okay, so we're talking about teen horror and sneaking in, stuff like that. I remember my mom hates horror, and she took me to Demon Night, Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, when I was about like 11 years old, but loved horror back then. And she spent the entire time closing her eyes and plugging her ears just so I could see it. But I was so cool, and I looked like the Jerry Maguire kid with terrible teeth, and I needed all the points I could get. So I was so grateful that my mom sucked it up for me like that. But with the slasher and all the scary stuff, I remember like Scream when that came out. You have all those movies that come out like Urban Legend 2, Final Destination. What was your you say you're getting into horror now? What would you say would be your favorite 90s to early 2000s horror based on this new movement that they had?
Look, like I said, I was zero into horror before this podcast. I didn't know anything.
Now,
I mean, I just said it. Scream is amazing. I haven't touched too much like modern horror though. Like I've gone back and done the classics like Halloween. Awesome.
Yeah.
Here's a Canadian film, Prom Night. That's a great one. We've done almost the entire Prom Night series on my show just for fun because whatever. But in terms of modern horror, I am a novice. People bring the horror to me, really. So I don't really have an answer for that. Which is great about this podcast, though. It's really helped me get into other genres like horror.
Yeah. A little thing about Prom Night 4, which I see you guys have in the list, and I can't wait to watch, is that this Robin person I saw Scream 2 with. I remember we rented movies all the time, and for years we would call each other up and say, "Pardon me for the language, everybody. This is a quote from the movie. Kill all the sluts and whores." we would just call each other. We would just say that. But we couldn't remember what movie it was from.
Oh my goodness.
So we're like, "What? We have a quote." And we're like, what movie is this? And then eventually it came to me in a dream, and I woke up at 4 a.m. and I immediately messaged him. I'm like, "Dude, it's Prom Night 4.
Again, you, your friend, me, and my guest, probably the ones who've seen that film. That's amazing.
I know. Prom Night 4 is terrible, but Prom Night 2 is really cool.
Prom Night 2 is one of the coolest movies you can see if you're into that kind of stuff. What a weird film.
My buddy Yannick is showing all his kid all these amazing like classic horror movies and stuff like that. His kid's the coolest kid in the world. And and his band, the Screaming Demons, they have a song about Prom Night 2, and I'm like, that's cool. Instead of just Prom Night, because Prom Night's like another slasher movie, but a ghost story, a revenge ghost story, that's pretty sweet.
It's amazing. Like, again, Prom Night 1 is good because it's classic, and it has like all the good things you want in that kind of slasher film. But Prom Night 2 is just like mind-blowing.
And Prom Night 3 is just shameless. Have you ever covered Sleepaway Camp?
No, I haven't. I wanted to. I got to check about the ages that they are in that film. That's always a tricky thing too.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Funny you said about ages and stuff like that, and it's a lot easier to film like a 30-year-old having like a teenage sexual encounter as opposed to someone who looks like an actual kid. But have you ever seen the movie Waiting?
Waiting, of course. Yeah. I actually, yeah, my friend does a food podcast and he just covered that.
Oh, great. Well, former castmate and friend of my girlfriend's, her name's Vanessa Lange, and she played Ryan Reynolds' potential love interest in the movie.
Yeah.
She played the hostess. But the thing is, if it makes you feel better, she was 20 years old when they shot that. She wasn't just 17. But it's kind of interesting that the entire movie, if you look at it through a modern lens where you just want to cancel everything and say, this is trash, by the end of the movie, Ryan Reynolds, who's a complete scumbag, does have a redeeming quality. They wait, which I think is the real title for Waiting, I guess. It's like
multiple
a secret
meetings.
It's a secret story within a story.
I mean, that's really cool though, because that movie, the one thing, because I rewatched it when he did it, the one thing that was like weighing on me was that until the end.
She was just on my other show, You and Me YTV, like 2 days ago, and we talked about it, and it was awesome, and it's been a really nice during this. Like, I know you're a creative person, and creative people in times of COVID and quarantine, you do the best you can. With all this time we're given, extra time, I could say. I'm glad that you've taken this time to put something back in the world and make people smile, because I think your show's great, and it clearly everybody who watches these movies, there's a lot of love, and everybody could just troll on a movie and stuff like that, but I find you guys always are trying to look for the positive side of everything. Is that something that you intended to do, where you're like, okay, we're not just going to be a few people just crapping on a movie? Like, let's always try to look for the bright side.
Honestly, yes. And that's something that maybe happened, I don't want to say recently, but definitely in the run. At the beginning, I think there's some episodes that I'm not too proud of because I was way too negative. And I was just letting guests come on and we would talk about things. Now I'm really looking for someone who's passionate about a movie and who's really going to even sell me on something. And if anyone wants to criticize me, it's like I'm maybe too positive. But I have so much more fun when we're talking about the fun thing. Even if we don't like the film, if we're laughing and having a good time, that's so much better than just shitting on a movie for an hour and ripping someone's creative endeavors. Look, there are some bad things we talk about, but let's have fun doing it. So yeah, absolutely, I try to be as positive as possible. We don't need more negativity in this world, especially when it comes to movies. There's enough other negative stuff.
I think if you bash something but you're kind of funny and creative about it, it's one thing, but to just be like, this is stupid, that's like the lowest common denominator. We don't need more people like that. Just
absolutely,
there's enough. Everybody's been recommending some really good movies, but just to know, everybody, he has 130 something episodes, so a lot of stuff has been covered. But I believe what someone said, and I'll put it up here. Nick Russo says Brian should cover April Fools. Awesome horror flick.
I never heard of that one. I'm going to add it to the list as we speak. This is a very ongoing list, so.
Of course, I'm sure everybody always tells you, "Oh, you should do an episode about."
Which I love, but again, it makes me think, like, how long am I going to be doing this for? Which sometimes is fun, sometimes is daunting, but whatever. I've concluded that I'm not going to do all of them, which originally I wanted to do, but it's not going to happen.
Well, it's subjective. I mean, like, I never heard of 3 O'Clock High until like 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
And now I'm going to tell everybody how innovative it was. And everybody out there who I've been talking all day about 3 O'Clock High before we secured this interview. Something about 3 O'Clock High that's great is on the Blu-ray that my friend Yannick, who's commenting away. He lent me the Blu-ray, so I watched the special features, and the director reminds me so much of Jason Mewes from Jay and Silent Bob.
Really? That's
but
awesome.
not Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. Jason Mewes, the person.
That's great.
And he oh my God, I start watching the thing. He's just like, yeah. So anyway, when I was making my movie, like Steven Spielberg was in there and stuff, and I'm like, wow, he even kind of looks like him.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
So what would you say? What would you say, like when you're starting your podcast and you said to yourself, I want to do high school movies? What is a high school movie that you loved so much throughout all the years and was kind of your muse to start such a podcast? Because it's a big endeavor. You've been doing this for a long time.
I mean, that's tough. I mean, I'll say it again. For me, like the gold standard growing up was always Ferris Bueller. And it's weird because you mentioned like commentary and stuff. I realized that recently when I did it, that the commentary on just one edition of the Ferris Bueller DVDs that was released influenced my outlook on films so much when I watched it. And this is if you can get this one version of the DVD that has the John Hughes commentary, it's amazing. He never does commentary. He did it for this one edition, and every edition after that, he refused to have it on there. And it's kind of. I just happened to have this DVD because it's one of the first DVDs I ever bought as a kid. So like this was definitely an influential film in doing the podcast. But I was just so happy too with the modern stuff that was coming out. Lady Bird and things like that, which I haven't covered. In Our Run, Booksmart came out. I just thought about so many films that I grew up with and the crushes I had on Julia Stiles, which, oh my God, I used to love Julia Stiles. But eventually, I feel like every generation has its group of these teen films, and it's almost a portrait of, growing up in like North America, because that's another thing too. 90% of teen films, like made in the English language, are made in the US and Canada. Like there's not too many, there's some, but they're very hard to find, like Australian films. There's UK films, but they always take place at a prep school,
90% of the teen shows. 90% of the teen shows are shot in BC. All of them, like the Riverdale, The Flash, all of them. It's all those That's trees. Too, yeah. Those are my trees.
That's great.
Oh man, everybody out there, keep commenting. This is a lot of fun. Bring up some. Actually, he brought up Lady Bird. Bring up some modern classics, because I saw on your show that you cover Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I was like, awesome, because that is a great new John Hughes type movie, done by I believe his name. Oh God, his name escapes me. The director, but the director made this great movie called Cop Car about Kevin Bacon, who's a corrupt police officer, and these two kids that steal his car. And him trying to get it back. And it is the most engaging, beautiful, weird movie. And I'm like, if this guy could do that with a car, two kids, and a menacing Kevin Bacon, what the hell can he do with Spider-Man? And he above and beyond delivered, in my opinion.
Knocked it out of the park. Some people don't consider, that's a Marvel film before it's a teen film. Watch those, the Tom Holland Spider-Mans. Those are high school movies. They just happen to have a superhero in them. They're awesome. I love those movies.
I love them too. So I grew up worshiping superheroes, and before the Marvel and Disney pretty much took over the world and dominating box office year after year, I would watch these terrible superhero movies again and again and again, just based on the fact that I had nothing else to go on. And I remember renting the original Captain America, where he's got bad fake ears. He's got bad fake ears. The pilot of The Flash that was on a VHS, and the old Flash with John Wesley Shipp. And what is a movie that only you like? And when you watch it, you're like, I look at it like someone looks at their ugly child, and you're like, you're beautiful, you're beautiful to me. But when you show anybody else, they're like, what's with the horn?
Oh God, that's really, really tough. There are some teen films that I like. I mentioned before, like there's this film Get Over It with Kirsten Dunst that not a lot of people like, that I actually really like.
Okay.
There's a bunch of those. I don't know if I have a crazy Flash story like that, but honestly, these days I'm liking everything I'm
Yeah.
seeing. It's pretty. When you watch all these movies, you start to go crazy with finding tropes and finding connected characters and stuff like that. I don't just watch high school films, obviously. I'm not that crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Like it's because there were so many movies I thought were like that until I started podcasting, and I was like, no, dude, everyone likes that movie. Like, oh fuck, okay.
A movie that you know what? Yeah. And the best thing about DVDs and Shout Factory, they're the ones that always go after those ones. And initially, when the public first consumes something, they're like, "Pfft," but the rest of us are like, whoa, 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 hey, we're like Charlie Brown. We're like, oh, it's a Christmas. It just needs a little love.
Yeah, 100%.
Ooh. And Shout, that's what they do. Ooh. And they put it out. And a good example of that is like Freaks and Geeks is one of the most brilliant high school things I've ever seen. Lasted one season, canceled before they could even produce a season 2, and spawned so many stars.
I mean,
like
forget about it.
Yeah, it's like AC/DC Back in Black if humans were songs. Like they're just like hit single after hit single, and even if you have like even if you have a song that's not as good as the others, it's still a good song. Nick, what are you saying? Are you disagreeing with Freaks and Geeks? Is that what you're saying? Are those fighting words? Because I won't fight you.
Wow, those are strong words.
I will ask you why. but please explain. Keep going in the comments. We will bring this up.
So something else similar to Freaks and Geeks in the animated world that I thought I was one of the only people who loved, but recently so many people have been talking to me about this is I don't know if you're familiar with Clone High.
Yeah.
Also a Canadian thing, and that was something like I got the DVD. I think it's a Shout DVD as well, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And lately, I can't tell you how many people have wanted to talk to me about Clone High. So ahead of its time, so awesome. I'm a huge Clone High mark, that's for sure.
Do you know? I'm sure you do.
And that's Phil Lord. Sorry,
yeah,
that's Phil Lord and Christopher Miller and stuff. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Please continue. Tell the world why. Tell the world why it is so like these two guys, dude. They made the Lego movie. They made Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is a great high school movie. Amazing.
Can't wait to cover that. Like these guys are. And again, that's amazing when you follow. Like, I didn't watch Clone High for them. It was more like a backtrack thing. Like, wait a minute, how do I know these guys? Oh shit, they did Clone High. That's so awesome.
Did you ever watch Undergrads? Because that's the other show that was on the air that both got canceled in one season because MTV are like, let's not pay for more animation.
Oh yeah. I'm not as familiar with that one, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love Undergrads, and so does my my best buddy Jay and I. We love Undergrads because the four guys, like, we have friends like that where we all grew up together and we couldn't be more different. And I just loved all the voices where Nitz is just kind of like, hi, my name is Nitz. That's a nickname. I don't remember why I have it. Nope. And then you got the goofy guy that gets all the girls, and he's like, oh, hey, cheapest buddy guy. How's it going? Oh, I met a lot of nice lady friends this week. And then you got like the uber nerd from the 90s, or it's just like, start Rocco, if you join a fraternity, we're gonna be mortal enemies, like meat, like milk and spaghetti, and Seth and Jedi. And then you had like the big dumb idiot, and it's redeemable because he's the big dumb idiot. He has all his friends to be like, hey, stop being a big dumb idiot. But he's like, want to have some sex? Yeah, sorry, world. I just had to get that out. I love doing dumb voices for no reason.
I love it.
Yeah,
you're enticing me to watch this show because again, I only vaguely remember that one.
But Clone High is amazing. It's And it reminds me of all the things that we love about modern humor and especially in those movies. You could tell it stems from the creative minds of those two guys and their timing, you know? Timing something you can't manufacture timing like that. It's just it's in somebody. And when I see Into the Spider-Verse, I'm like, God, this is not just beautiful to watch, but it's so funny.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. It's little moments, little if the camera stops and something just falls, like just goes like, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
And it's just amazing that like those guys could like cut their teeth on something like that. It got canceled after one season. Just keep plugging away, and eventually the cream rises to the top. So it's nice. I was really happy for those guys.
Okay, so just to paraphrase, just to be clear, Nick disagreed with Heathers being great because Yannick said Heathers is great, and he said Freaks and Geeks is the bomb and Clone High is bitchin' too. It's like, yes, Freaks and Geeks definitely were the bomb. And of course, Undeclared, starring Jay Baruchel, who, a Montrealer who's gone on to fame and fortune, and he's a good dude. I only met him for a second, but it was a righteous second.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So I love Christmas movies. Adore them. You talk about high school movies all the time. Let's talk about movies that aren't high school movies for a few seconds. So you don't have to keep bringing work to this particular broadcast.
I'll see what I know of the outside world. So.
Yeah, exactly. So lay it on me. What are some of your favorites that aren't high school movies?
Let's see. I've been talking a lot with a friend about High Fidelity, John Cusack's High Fidelity. Love that movie, and the show recently came out on Hulu with Zoe Kravitz, which was awesome. I love music, and that's like a really music-inspired film. But you mentioned Christmas movies. I thought you were going to bring up your favorite Christmas movie or something. Like, what kind of Christmas movies are you into?
I love so many Christmas movies, but I also love the genre of horror Christmas done correctly. Like, I love Krampus. Not all the crappy Krampuses. I'm talking about the legit one with Adam Scott. Okay, if Adam Scott is not in that movie, or Taya Leone, run. Because there's a bar that is associated with the name Krampus that is so bad. But
that is fair.
Yeah, but I love Christmas horror. I mean, I loved Anna and the Apocalypse so much because I found the songs were amazing. And when when pandemic first started and I didn't know what the hell was going to happen, I'm like, are we going to be in our houses for 8 days in a row are there going to be army on the streets? I didn't know back then. They're kind of telling. They're like, hey, things could be bad. I remember listening to the last song on Anna and the Apocalypse, and it's called I Will Believe, and it's gorgeous. And in the film, spoilers, whatever, she's just kind of sitting there singing a soft song as they're surrounded by, like, you're like, oh, I don't know if they're going to make it or not. And they sing this beautiful song instead. And I listened to it probably 5-6 times in a row. So a zombie comedy Christmas musical can reach my emotions that much, then the soul of that movie definitely has something to offer as opposed to sight gags and cheap laughs.
The one song in that film that always, maybe it's a cheap laugh, but it's the one that the I don't remember the name, but like the girl sings to like Santa for the pageant. That song cracks me up every time. Great soundtrack.
I'm told to mention by Nick Rosso here he's like, Santa's sleigh, is that good? Is it good? Well, and Chris Drysdale, my buddy, saying with Bill Goldberg, Santa's sleigh, it's kind of like it's a lot of fun, but it could have been 15 minutes. They're like,
I've actually seen that one.
Yeah.
Big wrestling guy, so that was.
Oh, me too.
Oh, good, cool.
Well, me too, because I'm assuming we might be similar in age, and when we were kids, wrestling was awesome because it just was, and now they perform in front of nobody and still act like people are there. Yeah,
that's tough. But yes, no, certainly the golden age of wrestling, at least for us, was awesome. Especially for you Canadians and your wrestling again. I know this is a very, very pro Canada show today, but
oh yeah. Well, it was crazy when you think like wrestling and kayfabe, like how serious people took it in the sense that Bret Hart would literally be booed out of a stadium in America for being like the pro Canada guy and then come here and be a hero. And then now as a 36-year-old man, I'm just kind of like, it's a gimmick, you fucking idiot. Shut up.
But it's so great. Everyone in there knew it, but they just, I don't
Yeah.
know, they bought in so much.
I
It's like
know.
living a movie. It's so weird. That's why I love wrestling, because it's just the most bizarre form of art that maybe has ever existed in human history.
Yeah. I mean, like the kids on Riverdale aren't real, but when someone cheats on somebody, I'm like, what? How can you do that? And feel emotion.
But if you were to meet that actor, you wouldn't be like, fuck you, man. Why'd you cheat on that girl? When people meet wrestlers, they're actually like mad at their actions, which is
like when Chris Jericho got attacked in a parking lot because of stuff with Shawn Michaels and crap. It's like, you guys are taking this way too seriously. Like, I love wrestling. I love following into it. I think Undertaker and the whole "is he dead or not" motive was so fun as a kid. But I think back to the times in the 60s and 70s when like Eddie Guerrero's dad would get stabbed in the ring based on how serious people took this stuff. And then you look back at the work and you see all the work punches that are super fake looking. I'm like, guys, come on.
It's hilarious. But people would just buy in. I
like
compare
I said, I love it though. Love it.
Yeah, for sure. But like wrestling is a lot like, people who are hardcore horror fans too. They're not going to go out and beat people up, but you're buying in. You're not like, oh, that looks fake or something like that, and I love it. Passion is so important. Again, not evil passion against, against people, but fun, supportive passion is just so amazing these days. And I love to see it. We live in such an apathetic world that it's great to see people who are just passionate about something.
Yeah. And, what I love about wrestling the most, and I'll never forget this, is that I remember like when my grandmother was not doing well health-wise, and I remember kind of being like with my mom, and I was like 19 at the time, and or 20 at the time, and I had things to do, like every young jerk. And we were staying in Toronto for like 2 weeks when my mom was visiting her in the hospital, and after a while, I was just kind of like, yeah, what do I do here? And I remember on the way home. Eventually, we were coming back to Montreal, and I remember being at Costco in which everything was in English because in Quebec, everything's French. Like if you go to a bookstore or a Costco and something's on sale, you got to put a little bit of armor on because you're like, this might be the only French copy of something. Don't get excited if you see a sale with the thing you want. Be ready for it. Which is fine if someone wants to read the French copy of the book, but I'm not good enough in French to read an entire book. So I'm in the book section. I'm like, wow, they're all English. This is great. Bret Hart book. My goodness. So I read it and I don't put that thing down for 2 straight days. It is a thick book, but
I have it. Yeah.
It's the first time I ever learned about really what a baby face and a heel is, and the fundamentals of wrestling, what it's like to be in a wrestling family, keeping up the kayfabe, all that stuff, and a backstage look at this world that I watched as a finished product, editing and everything. And then all of a sudden it was like being on set and being able to experience it. And I appreciate wrestling in a whole other way.
100%. I love that book. That was actually the first wrestling book I read. I met Bret Hart as a kid, and he just became my hero after that. And
tell the story of meeting Bret Hart there, Brian.
Not much, just at an event with a friend, and we knew someone at Madison Square Garden, and they were like, hey, let's, you want to meet Bret Hart? Sure. Awesome. After that, again, he was my guy. So
I love Brad. I loved Owen. And very sad.
Sure.
All right. So as a wrestling fan, have you seen that amazing show, Dark Side of the Ring? Because holy crap.
Oh, that show will screw you up. But that's an awesome show. They do such a good job on that show. Such a good job on that show.
It's funny when you look about like reality, same thing with wrestling, with reality versus what actually happened. Melissa and I were watching Fighting with My Family the other day, and we're like, this is amazing. And we're like, that's great. And then like all things, you watch the documentary, you're like, hey, None of that happened. None of it. Where they give this brother a storyline where he's fighting, like teaching blind kids how to wrestle and getting in fights from bars, and I'm like, none of that happened in this movie. But you know,
I mean, I still enjoyed the movie, but yeah, it's a little bit Hollywood.
Yeah, I think it's a little too Hollywood. But I'm wondering if they ever made a book on Bret Hart's life, like how Hollywood they go. Speaking of Hollywood Hulk Hogan, starring Chris Hemsworth.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. I mean, we'll see, but so good team behind it. We'll put it that way.
Maybe as kind of historians, that'll be our downfall because we're just going to be so used to something being one way. Like I said, the immense joy I had watching Fighting with My Family, knowing nothing, and then struggling with the reality line, like
so much better. Like Bohemian Rhapsody, that happened with a lot of people. Like the hardcore Queen fans. Not big fans of that movie. People who are like peripheral Queen fans loved the movie. So sometimes they make those things not for the hardcore fans, but just for the mainstream. So it is.
How about you? Did you like Bohemian Rhapsody?
I didn't hate it, but
there you go. There you go.
Definitely wasn't my favorite. Just because I watched every Queen documentary there is. I knew so much about the band, so I'm like, this is a cool story. I like the music, but it's not real,
Yeah, the thing I didn't like about it is that I have a Def Leppard movie that's a TV movie shot in Canada. I don't mean to keep bringing up Canada. Honestly, it's just happening. Low budget, kind of crappy, and but very endearing. But I found the same pacing and dialogue in this little TV movie was the same pacing and dialogue in this big Oscar-winning huge movie, and where all the dialogue is just there to get something done, where it's just like, are you guys want to record a 9-minute song? Yeah, we're going to do that because we're Queen, right? Yeah, we're Queen. We do that. Well, you can't put out a 9-minute song. Well, yeah, we can because we're Queen and we do that. I'm like, you guys have done this 5 times.
It was very, you're absolutely right. It was very Mad Libs for like a music biopic. It just, I mean, again, I don't want to shit on it so much and say like, oh, it's the worst movie in the world, because I know people work really hard to do it and so many people enjoy it. But again, not my favorite, put it that way.
Yeah, Nick Russo's asking, have we seen Paige's other film? No, I haven't, because I have parental blockers on my Google. Yeah, there you go. Next. So the Miz has like a bunch of Christmas movies. My buddy Chris Drivesdale's bringing up. You know what? I love Christmas movies. I'm very particular about, like, I want to see every Christmas movie and then just keep the best ones. But National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation still is really good. And I say that because it's not just child wonderment that I relive when I watch it. I think it's actually a really well-paced movie. I think it's actually the best vacation movie in a way, in my opinion. Maybe the people that like the first one, but this one doesn't involve dragging a dog on a highway with a leash, so I'm good.
Oh boy, yeah, I watched the original Vacation sometime during quarantine. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't remember all this dark shit in here. No, but I love the Christmas Vacation. Again, John Hughes written film there too.
Yeah,
the Long Duck Dong character actually originates in the story that Christmas Vacation is based on. He couldn't get it. He couldn't get it in that movie, so he decided to shoehorn it into 16 Candles. Unfortunately.
Oh man, that's amazing. So you've had some pretty gnarly episodes and great guests, and Charlie Talbert must have been a wonderful surprise. Can you tell the audience here about how Angus from the movie Angus appeared on your podcast? When you got the message from him, were you at first worried, or like, oh no, did you think we shit on him or something? Because
he did, and that's why he messaged us.
Okay,
but he's such a nice guy that so me and one of my frequent co-hosts, Kate Hudson, not the famous one, but famous to me because I love her. But she
famous to me too.
She's huge fan of the movie, so passionate about it. I hadn't seen it. And she was like, first of all, this is one of the greatest soundtracks ever made. and it is. And I bought it on vinyl as soon as I watched the movie because I love collecting vinyl soundtracks, and that was one I was like, why don't I have this? But
Yeah.
we talked about the movie, and we were saying how we loved it, but the one criticism I had, and really more her, was that that Charlie seemed out of place because he was acting with some Oscar winners, and it wasn't really meant as a dig. It was more like, this guy is up against it. And as we read more about the movie, we kind of start to understand why they cut so much out of that film, which we go into a lot, both our Angus episode, but more in the episode with Charlie. But when the episode comes out, whatever, I get a message from him, and I'm like, oh my God, first of all, awesome. But I'm like, hey, so I heard you were taking shots at me in the episode. And I'm like, oh no, I didn't mean it. But now, and you've had Charlie on. I know Charlie on. Now I know exactly like the tone he was speaking in.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about it. Of course, my co-host for the day, Kate, she had maybe a couple drinks in her. She was talking to him too, and she invited him on the episode that we were recording the next day, which was Fear, which is a film with Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon. It's kind of like an angsty teenage sex thing, and Charlie was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I've never seen it." And after that, I was like, "This guy is awesome," because he's just agreeing to slip out of it. Yeah, and then I got him to. I was like, we need to do an Angus Revisited episode, and he just spilled his guts. And again, supplemented by your great episode. I think between the two of us, we got pretty much like 90% of all these great Angus.
We're the only shows that have done it. Okay. And that's why we're buzzed right now, because we're like, there is another. And it's not like Highlander where I got to cut off your head. I'm like, hey, everybody, make some fucking shows. Get Charlie and Patrick Reed Johnson on there. Let's talk about Angus more, man. Let's get some Blu-rays. Come on. Spread the word.
God, yes. Yeah. That movie needs a director's cut so badly. So badly. I mean, you one-upped me by getting Patrick Reed Johnson, which was awesome. And yeah, like we need a director's cut of that film because the original version had like a great like gay subplot apparently with it. It was very ahead of its time, and I think basically we came to the conclusion that most of our criticism of Charlie, which it wasn't that much to be honest with you, but most of it was probably because of the stuff that was cut out. And I can't say this enough. He's such a great guy. Check out everything he does, everyone out there, because Charlie Talbert, like a real mensch.
Well, a show that Charlie appeared in, and people can have small but pivotal roles. Like I'm reading Bruce Campbell's third book right now called Hail to the Chin, and he brings up how he was in 3 Spider-Man movies, and he thinks each one of his roles is very pivotal. In the first movie, he's the wrestling announcer who's just like, all right, everybody, welcome to the stage. Hey, what's your name, kid? The Human Spider. What? Oh, that sucks. The Amazing Spider-Man. Oh. So he's like, I named Spider-Man in Spider-Man 1. In Spider-Man 2, he's trying to get to the play to get to Mary Jane, in which things will work out if he gets to this play, and he's the usher to be like, no, you can't come in, you're late. So he's like, I'm the only person in all these movies that ever defeated Spider-Man.
That's a good call.
And then the third one, he was like, the waiter who Spider-Man is actually asking for advice about romantic stuff. So where the fuck was I going with this? Little pivotal roles. Wait, backtrack. What was I saying this? Oh yeah, Charlie is in Watchmen, and Watchmen just got nominated for everything. And Charlie plays a cop in it, but he does a very pivotal scene. In my favorite episode, that's kind of like a flashback. She takes these drugs where she could see what the other guy experienced in the 60s. Charlie plays this cop that kind of warns the guy, listen, you got to back off. Not because he's like, back off N-word. He's showing compassion. He's the only cop being like, if you go down this road, something terrible will happen to you. And the guy decides to do it anyway, but Charlie was the guy that kind of introduced, they're all dirty. It's all a conspiracy. It's real. Get out of here. And it's amazing what a great performance Charlie did. We're talking like 20 seconds, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
even if we didn't know him, we'd remember that character.
And I did.
Yeah,
I did. I'm
awesome.
like, the mustache man with the heart of gold. And then when I found out it was him, I was like, awesome.
Yeah, so cool. Everyone, just give him all the parts, please, because Charlie Talbert is amazing.
Yeah. And his recounting, I loved on your show, him recounting his experiences on Art School Confidential. That was great.
God.
I love Art
Cool.
School Confidential. You know, it's a great movie, Saved. Have you ever seen Saved?
Saved, yeah, we covered it early in our run. It's
nice. I gotta listen to it, man. It's so fun. It's so funny.
I mean, I'm probably not as good as a podcaster at that point, but that is a very underrated film. It came out around the same time, I think, as Mean Girls, so it got really overlooked. But that's a really, really cool film.
My friend Nick Caruso, who's listening along and stuff like that, I want to bring it up for him. He had a podcast called Nerds the Word, and I have my various projects. How much editing does it actually take to produce your show? Because to me, as a listener, it sounds completely smooth. It doesn't sound like a word is wasted. It's not full of ums and buts, but I can imagine it takes a lot of time to get it to that point.
You see this face? You see how tired I look? That's from editing.
Nice.
It does take a while. You know, I some people like a naturalistic show, and I like a naturalistic show too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like editing people's parts out or changing what they're saying, but I do take out a lot of ums and spaces. I like a nice fluid flow. It's weird. Like until you have a podcast, you don't really know editing, because now I listen to any podcast and I could tell the exact, all right, this guy edits a lot, or this guy maybe doesn't. And that's fine. It's like all a matter of taste, but I definitely like faster movement when it comes to those kind of things. So, you know, clearly a perceptive guy. I do take out a lot of ums, but yeah, I can't even tell you. For an hour podcast, it's like 3 or 4 hours of editing sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of, every time I listen back to what I record or something like that, I guess I kind of hate myself or whatever, but I generally take 90% of in an interview what I say out, but I find it necessary to say that much to get somebody comfortable enough to really express themselves. And I'm kind of like, everybody's kind of here to hear the other guy. So when it comes to the edited, it's a little different live, and a little different when it's my namesake on the show. But but in general, I try to make it more about them. And that's tough sometimes, because sometimes you'll have like a 4-hour conversation that's amazing. You're like, how do I get it down? Because the internet has no attention span. And if a video is longer than 20 minutes, I don't want to watch it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's why, like, podcasting just, it's a different animal, but it's also something where it's a labor of love. Like, if you don't love what you're doing, if you don't love what you're podcasting about, you're not going to spend sometimes, overnighters editing something, and it's just going to be like shit. Like, that's why I pick something I really enjoyed. I pick guests that I really love having on, and I really truly love what I do when it comes to that. Like, there's never a moment where I'm not enjoying having a conversation with someone. There has been times, like I said, when things have been very negative, but I think I have my flow now. It only took 100 and something episodes, but I just have a blast talking with people and just getting into why they love a movie. And once you get someone going, as you know probably better than I do, once you get someone going, it's really awesome just having them spill their guts.
Well, have you ever actually, without naming names, have you ever had to like literally fix it in post because the interview or it just didn't go the way you thought it was going to go? And when you were recording it, you felt in your gut, this is going to be one of those that I got to ET the shit out of to make sure it's listenable.
It's funny. I've had those moments, and the episode will come out and I'll go, oh, that was such an awesome episode. I'm like, really? Okay. So you just never know, really. You just never know. Early on, like, you can, like almost any podcast, to be fair, but you can tell that I've certainly gotten more comfortable with what I'm doing in this particular podcast. I've certainly gotten better. There were some episodes that were just editing nightmares, partially my fault. But when you release once a week, now twice a week, you don't have a lot of time. I always compare it to wrestling, actually, right? Like, they're doing so much TV every week that, it is what it is. But once it's out, what are you going to do? You're not going to not going to go back and fix it because I could, but I would drive myself crazy doing that. It's almost on to the next one.
The WWE likes rewriting history a little bit. You see,
Well, that's true.
I have a poster on the side of my room here that has Bret Hart, Roddy Piper, Shawn Michaels, Ted DiBiase, the Rock, Stone Cold, and the Honky Tonk Man, because other wrestlers that could be in the Legends poster were not in the best graces of WWE at the time, in which that is the only way the Honky Tonk Man would be in this weight class.
Oh my God.
Or pay grade.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. No, I have so much empathy for people who have to record and put a lot of love into productions, but I respond to love too. I don't want to not knock anybody. It's a young person's game. There's a lot of YouTubers that literally it's not even on us live, but they just put up videos of them talking for 45 minutes without editing. I just can't do it. I don't think I'm interesting enough to make somebody do that. I like adding some bells and whistles and giving myself a close up and you a close up and all that shit. Anyway, let's get into a little bit of history here. We live in a very weird time where, for the first time ever within, I think, a month and a half, we are going to see a new Bill and Ted movie. Now, there's been speeches about Bill and Ted sequels for a very long time. I thought part 2 ended kind of strong, or so we thought. Mm-hmm. But would you like to watch with me some trailers?
Absolutely.
I got some trailers here. Let everybody watching right now who has already turned this off in disgust, or like they're talking about wrestling.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, too bad. Oh, I think I got. So I don't got the original, but I do have Face the Music here. So let's watch the trailer for Bogus Journey and then Face the Music and watch our heroes age. All right. So this is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
I have a feeling we're about to embark upon a most unprecedented expedition.
Once they made history.
I must see to it that you die.
Now, they are history. Bill and Ted are dead.
Welcome to hell.
It's the Grim Reaper, dude. How's it hanging, Death?
But they're having one hell of a time.
This is not what I expected this place to look like at all. We got totally lied to by our album covers, man.
Taking in the sights.
Not bad, dude. We totally knew a guy got one of those in his bucket of chicken.
Making new friends.
Excuse us, dude, but is there any way we can get back?
You may challenge me to a contest.
J7.
You have sunk my battleship.
Excellent!
Best 2 out of 3.
What?
Enjoying the family.
No way!
Invading the present.
I totally possessed my dad.
Battling the future.
You metal, dude! Excuse us, but your shoes are untied. Can't believe we just melded death!
And meeting their maker.
Guy, congratulations on Earth! Not to mention your other great planets. Mars, Jupiter, Uranus.
It's the comeback of all time. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It's a trip.
Best of 7?
Damn right!
Ah, dude! Left hand red. Ah! Yeah!
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
All right. So, as a high school historian yourself, a high school movie historian, has the term Melvin ever been a thing before that movie?
No.
I don't think so. I think they just made up a word.
Yes.
Where they're like, they're like, hey, we just fucked up deaf. And they're like, we can't say that, guys. You just Melvin deaf.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
All right, so that was the second movie. The first movie was created by two friends, I believe, in college, and they eventually wrote themselves. They wrote Bill and Ted. There was even a third character, and eventually they wrote a script and sold the movie. And they had nothing to do with casting. And I remember at a Comic-Con panel, they were both saying they're kind of bummed that they weren't playing Bill and Ted, and they're like, oh God, the guys who play them, are they going to be as good as us at playing Bill and Ted? So they're in line and they see two guys goofing off, and they're like, see, those are the guys that should be playing Bill and Ted. And those two guys were Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. I love Bill and Ted.
And that's not how they were cast. They were already cast. This was just a coincidence.
That's amazing. Perfect.
So they're still. Why I bring this up is that they're still involved in the movie coming out very soon. In fact, the original producers involved. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's the same except the director. But the director directed Galaxy Quest, which I adore.
Another underrated film.
That's another movie that if it wasn't for internet fan rage, people might have forgotten. But because of that, kudos to Galaxy Quest. I think Bill and Ted isn't great fans. Brian, would you like to watch the trailer with me? The second trailer of Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
So just a little bit of background, everybody. At the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, they reemerge from a phone booth, having grown beards and learn how to play guitar, and they unite. They play some Kiss, and they high five, and we're under the impression they changed the world. But they didn't. They lied. They told us there's some. Yeah. So here is Bill and Ted Face the Music, trailer number 2. Let's check it out.
Now, a motion picture so grand, so magnificent, and so vast, it spans 7,000 years.
No way. Yes way.
But it starts with Bill.
I'm Bill S. Preston.
Who was Joan of Arc?
And Ted.
Noah's wife. We're in danger of flunking most heinously tomorrow.
A force from the future.
Can we go anywhere we want at any time?
You can do anything you want.
Is putting history at their fingertips.
Let's reach out and touch someone.
They're traveling through time.
How's it going, Royal Ugly Dudes?
Put them in the Iron Maiden.
Excellent!
Execute them.
Bogus. How's it going, dude?
Yeah, oops.
I was enjoying it. Yeah.
That's not the new one. I just kind of realized I don't think I uploaded it properly, so I will have to go find it. But yeah, that was not it. But I will get it. Okay, here we go. It'll just take a few minutes. Yeah, but that's the fun part of about this new technology, getting to watch trailers and stuff like that. Can you tell me, as we're waiting for this, can you tell me about your history of Bill and Ted? Did you like Bill or Ted better? Which one's your favorite?
Oh, I mean, honestly, looking like when I was a kid, for some reason it was Bill. I don't know why. I think I'm more a Ted guy now, but
okay.
I watched that movie like super young. It was on TV all the time. I'm a huge history buff. Obviously, it's not 100% historically accurate, but it was so cool to see these two guys just bring these historical characters. It was always like a dream of mine to do that as a kid, and to watch this movie that actually did it was so cool. And then the sequel did not get a lot of love for years, but now everyone I talk to loved the sequel. It's one of these things we were talking about before. Like, you felt like you were the only one who liked the movie, and then suddenly you realize that, oh, everyone else liked this movie as well. I can't wait for the new one. It was in kind of a, like every film, like the date got pushed back so often, and they weren't sure. I mean, it wasn't official whether it was going to go to VOD at the same time as the theater release, but now they're both the same date, which is great. So we could safely watch Bill and Ted in the comfort of our own homes, which is always nice. I guess if you can go to the theater wherever you are, do it safely, please. But so, I'm so excited for this one. I'm not into like modern day sequels or reboots. Often they disappoint us a lot, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too much. We'll see after it comes out.
Well, no, we'll watch this trailer, but then we're going to talk about sequels they should have never made 15 years later. How dare you ruin these movies? It will just sound like a bunch of trolls and crawl back under our bridges. But here's the sequel they should make, and it's called Bill and Ted Face the Music.
If it isn't the Wild Stallions.
Let's rock!
When your wives suggested couples therapy, do you think that this is what they had in mind?
Definitely. I mean, we're a couple of couples, right?
Bill, Ted, enough of the delusions. You didn't time travel, and you didn't go to heaven and hell. Here's a real idea for you. Be role models to your daughters. Get real jobs.
Bill, we've spent our whole life trying to unite the world. And I'm tired, dude.
Ted, we have a destiny to fulfill.
Whoa!
Whoa! Greetings, my excellent friends. We have a problem.
Step forward. A song created by Preston Logan, performed tonight, will save reality as we know it.
Oh! Dude, we better write that song now.
Or why can't we just go to the future when we have written it? And take it from ourselves.
Except, won't that be stealing?
Cheers! How is that stealing if we're stealing it from ourselves, dude?
Dude, our dads are totally in trouble. We should help them out.
No way! How's it going, Bill and Ted?
We're putting together a most extraordinary band.
Hey, you want to be in our band?
Oh, this is ja fantastisch.
We're gonna go talk to Death. Is he playing hopscotch by himself? Dude, he's cheating. Hey, Death!
Why, if it isn't the Wild Stallions.
Let's rock!
Be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes!
Tina! Billy! Dad!
How you doing?
Well, you know, we're dead and we're in hell.
But how you doing?
We're good.
Now I wonder if the daughters are going to adopt the.
I hope.
Yeah. I don't know. It looks like a blast. It looks like it's made. It looks like it knows what it is. And after seeing the other trailers, I'm like, yeah, these movies have always been kind of like awesomely dumb, and this looks like more awesomely dumb. So great.
I mean, and that's like the hopeful part, right? Like,
yeah.
The only thing that they could do to ruin it is if it's boring somehow.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's not.
I find Keanu Reeves, when he does the surfer voice now, after doing years and years of John Wick, Matrix, groveling up the voice to be badass now when he does his signature 80s, like, whoa, dude, like it sounds like, oh, dude.
Yeah, it's almost like he's 20 years older than he actually is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in this movie, I'm going to pretend I'm Bill. I'm going to pretend I'm Ted, Theodore Logan, 30 years older than he's supposed to be. No, I don't know. It's cool stuff. I think it's so great that they got the dad back. I think that's a really nice detail.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder who Missy's married to now.
They have to have that. They have to show us. Like, look, sometimes these movies become too much of fan service, but give me the fan service for this one. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I just want to have fun.
Yeah. So before we were talking about that break, I just wanted to ask you a question. Like, you're never negative on your show, with good reason, to the best of your ability. What is a movie that was a sequel made kind of recently, but let's say the last 5-10 years that you found years after the fact where they completely missed the mark? And I'll open it up with, I think Dumb and Dumber 2 is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
That was my pick. That was exactly
okay.
That was going to be my pick. Oh my God. Like, why? What I hate is like the people beg for this stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like, be careful what you wish for. When something's good, sometimes you just want to leave it alone, and not always the case, but that's certainly one of them. God, people were like begging for a second Zoolander for a while, and that was terrible.
Anchorman,
another one.
too. Oh, I don't think comedy sequels work, like not all the time. So, I have hope for this one because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's doing something different in a way where they're kind of like, well, this is an amalgam of part 1 and 2. Part 1, they go in the past. Part 2, they go to heaven and hell. So far, their daughters seem to do both, and that's kind of rad.
Yeah. And you know what I really like? Part 1 is vastly more popular than part 2.
Yeah.
They don't ignore part 2. They completely, like you said, they completely acknowledge it and they build on it, which is great because they didn't have to do that. Sometimes you see sequels that ignore the other sequels and just go from like 1 to
Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good call. Yeah, I mean, it's something. Again, we make too many of these remakes and too many of these reboots where it's just like, why? We have so much access to the originals today. We don't need it remade. And you make a good point with comedies too. Like sequels don't do so well. And we also, how many comedies are really having theatrical releases these days? Not that many. Most are going straight to streaming or having limited releases. So I just don't think this is the age of comedy. I love comedies, but I think we're way too cynical to appreciate things in like new form. I don't know what it is, but the facts are facts. And check all, not this year because God knows what happened, but like check all like new releases and what percentage of them that get wide release in theaters are straight comedies.
Yeah, without kind of being like an action comedy or a superhero show that's funny.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of a dying art, but comedy changes every once in a while, and then there's that comedy where like this is the funniest thing anyone's ever seen, and then 15 years later, when what people deem kind of like socially acceptable, where you're just watching it and you're just kind of like, I hope no one sees me watch this. I hope no one hears me watching this. I'm like, you don't understand the subtext. Yeah, but it's kind of weird though, and this is just kind of a critic. I want to criticize the world a little bit in a sense that it's just like we're doing a lot of self-correction right now, but at the same time we're kind of punishing people for doing things a few years ago when kind of like in the early 2000s, and I'm going to say this about James Gunn, he was let go from Guardians of the Galaxy for 3. I mean, we would have had a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 by now, but he made some tweets like 8 years ago, and disagree with me all you want, buddy. It's this that's not the thing. It's names of the show. People in the comments, throw your weight in, but I'm kind of like, I think no one's kind of taking consideration that in 2010, all comedy was shocking. Just shocking. People were saying anything that would stick to the wall. The most hardcore jokes, the most popular show on TV was Family Guy, South Park. Like humor was just shocking. So you need before you cancel people for an age of time, just go into that context and be like, wasn't everybody doing that at that time? If it's an isolated incident where someone is just saying straight up racial things for the sake of it, well, fuck off. Like it's a little different. It's a little different. But if Disney's course correcting, you're the company that made Song of the South. Let's get off your high horse.
It's true.
Yeah.
We too often punish people for not thinking 10 years ahead of themselves, not being forward thinking and progressive 10 years ago. Like if someone's still saying that shit today, and obviously we have racist people out there today, so it's not like this is extinct. That's a different story. But again, and racial was a bad one to bring up. I meant more like off-color humor that gets people in trouble today. It is, there's a fine line. I don't know where it is. I don't think I'm the person who should determine where it is. But it is tough sometimes that some people get away with saying so much, and some people one little thing and it blows up. And again, I don't know where we determine this. It's weird.
You got a good point, man. It's It is. It's whatever. We're not gonna talk social politics on a show where we're talking about old funny movies or whatever. I'm just saying, everybody, let's just always take time and context. That's all. Time and context. I think it's kind of like, I look at it kind of like, if a superhero movie sucks right now, well, fuck you, because we had this summer where Iron Man and The Dark Knight both came out, raising the bar of what is a production of a superhero movie should be. And if you make the same stupid mistakes everybody was making in the 90s, where you change the origin costume and just do a bunch of stuff, whatever, because you don't care. If you do that now, if you do that still now, then, that's on you. So right now, let's just put the line in the sand where it's just like, we're all a little bit more aware of what we're supposed to say and do. If you continue to do this, it's a little different. If you stubbornly continue to do it, it's a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well put. Good analogy.
Yeah. So we got about, I don't know, Brian, if you got somewhere to be, I don't know. Can I show you some weird trailers of movies that I'm not sure that you have heard of?
I love trailers. Let's do it.
Okay. This is some of the strangest shit I've ever seen. And I love this movie as a kid. It scared the crap out of me. I showed it to Melissa, and we were both like, what the hell is happening? How is this made? What is going on? It's called Lady in White. Have you ever heard of Lady in White?
No, I can't say I have.
You will now, Brian. You will now.
It's 1962. It's Halloween.
I wish I was as weird as you. Thanks.
There's nothing wrong with the town of Willow Point Falls that a powerful imagination can't cure.
The London Bridge crumpled under the monster's huge lizard feet. That's impossible. Or is it?
But this time, it's not make-believe.
No, don't hurt him. It was too dark. I couldn't see his face.
This time it's serious, deadly serious.
I'm telling you, that doesn't matter. This case has been making monkeys out of all of us for the past 10 years.
And strange. Very strange. For you have seen a girl.
There was a little girl. I saw her. She was killed in the cloakroom.
A girl who wants you to find her killer.
Will you help me?
You have just one hope to solve the mystery.
Sometimes when someone dies violent, they can't rest in peace.
To stop the evil.
Where are you going? I gotta follow her.
To save your life.
Come here, child.
Open the door. Say your prayers. Lady in White.
What the serious hell? It made in a time when kind of like tones were just juggled.
That got dark.
I know. You're like, it's a happy town. Murder. And you're like, child murder. Like, what the hell? And Melissa was watching her like, how? And I'm like, I don't know. I thought ghosts were cool. I don't. Anyway, yeah.
Whoa.
that was something else. Thoughts?
Who is your audience for that film? Right? Like, it really looked like a fun nostalgia piece. Whoa. Yeah, that was a trip.
Okay, apparently the feed was suspended. Maybe. I don't know. I don't care. Are you gonna suspend the feed? Fuck. Watch it on Facebook. Anyway, wait, getting a message right now. Just saying. YouTube suspended the feed. Okay. Whatever.
What happened, YouTube? Why?
I don't know. I guess because I was showing trailers. Well, we know now because we were talking about humor 10 years ago.
They're censoring us.
Yeah. All right, whatever. Hey, we're on the feed. You know what's really cool though is that my buddy Alan is watching this, and he's telling me about. I've said it before. You still can't watch the peanut. You still can't watch Peanut Butter Solution. Here's the thing about Peanut Butter Solution, everybody, is I'm going to play. I have not seen a trailer or this film in 25 years, hands down. And we're going to watch a trailer for it in about 10 seconds. And we're all going to watch it together, and maybe YouTube will suspend the feed or not. I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. We do this shit for fun. The most important part of the day, everybody, is that you all download Slumber, High School Slumber Party. An amazing podcast for those of you who are just joining us. Focuses on all the movies from the 70s, 80s, 2000s, sometimes even current. Great movies with the host Brian Rodiguez right here, and his amazing friend Kate Hudson. Not that Kate Hudson, another Kate Hudson. And I just fell down a rabbit hole of those episodes. I was listening to all of them. I think it's great. So definitely subscribe because Brian puts a lot of work into that show, and he deserves your attention. I would not tell everybody to listen to the show if I thought it sucked, because I'm a troll in rehab. You know, I slip every now and then. I have a beer in me and I go, Batman v Superman sucked.
Well, again, appreciate it.
And then I cross off my chip. I hand him my chip. I'm like 30 days angry, gone. Already at number one. All right, this is the Peanut Butter Solution, everybody. Oh God.
Michael's a normal boy in an abnormal position.
We had a little accident.
You had yourself some sort of extraordinary fright.
Michael! Where's your hair? I'm bald.
The proper medical term is harum-scarum.
What a loony.
Now, he's got one hairy problem. And he's about to find a solution.
You can't just come into our house, can you? Ghosts can go anywhere.
In the least likely place you'd think.
Here's old Charlie's recipe.
A jar of peanut butter.
Don't use too much of it or watch out.
But the peanut butter solution is just the beginning.
It's growing so fast.
Of an even bigger problem.
Mr. Jingles, it's moving.
Human hair grows only half an inch a month. No more.
Oh, that's a head of hair. Well done, son.
I don't think it's natural, Dad.
It's the peanut butter solution.
This is a classroom, not a barbershop.
A toast to this new hair. Long may it grow.
But if it doesn't stop growing, what will happen to Michael? It's a hair-raising, heartwarming comedy adventure for your whole family. See the Peanut Butter Solution.
What's amusing?
Okay, that trailer makes it seem like a happy-go-lucky family film, but that movie is weird and strange, and the music in it, like they put up like everybody just wants to put peanut butter on their head. Why little Billy even put some on his beard. But that movie is full of dark soundtracks and weirdness. It's kind of like with 3 O'Clock High with the what were they called again? That did the soundtrack and all the music is super moody.
God,
yeah,
they do such great soundtracks. I need to look that.
They will like that. So I just had to show you that, man.
That's crazy. Someone told me to watch that recently, and I was like, "What?" They're like, it's the freakiest movie you'll ever see.
There's a free app, everybody. Those who don't have it, it's kind of like Netflix, but it's free. It's called Tubi TV, TUBI, and it's full of great B movies. If I could kiss the founder of Tubi TV on the mouth without getting corona to thank them for the entertainment, the free entertainment they provided millions of people during some of the worst times in human history, I would, because download Tubi TV, the app. It's just wonderful. All these strange movies that only you like, they're there.
Yeah, for sure. I've been watching a lot of Tubi stuff. It's weird stuff, but it's pretty awesome. It's stuff that the filmmakers definitely thought would probably be lost forever, which is great. And sorry, I just wanted to look up Tangerine Dream is
Tangerine Dream. Gotcha.
High soundtrack, and they do a lot of other great movie soundtracks.
We've been watching some trailers, everybody, and I got a few more. If you don't mind watching one or two, Brian.
Let's do it.
Brian, have you seen the Monster Squad?
Yes.
What do you think of the Monster Squad?
I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember thinking it was pretty awesome.
Cool. Well, I interviewed Andre Gower, who played Sean in the Monster Squad, not a few months, about a month and a half ago. Natural born storyteller. If you ever want to have him as a guest, I would reach out, or I would reach out for you. He is the most giving storyteller I've ever met.
Awesome.
He is amazing, and everyone deserves your attention. Everyone out there, if you have not seen Monster Squad, this is a movie that was also plagued by kind of like tonal issues in the sense that it's super kiddie, but at the same time it's super adult. And the people who were putting this movie out had no idea what to do with it. As you'll see in this trailer, it's going to be very kiddie because I try to find the original trailer that screwed the movie over, essentially. So here it is, Monster Squad trailer.
You know who to call when you have ghosts. But who do you call when you have monsters?
We're the Monster Squad. What's a squad? It's like Miami Vice, I think.
They're young and inexperienced.
Naughty virgins.
They're a bit disorganized.
Monsters are not real.
We don't know that, sir.
2,000-year-old dead guys do not get up and walk away by themselves.
But when strange things start happening in town...
There's a monster in my closet.
Ooh, look at that big, scary monster!
What's happening? 2 ways to kill a werewolf.
Silver bullet?
They're the only ones ready to do battle.
Something's out there that's killing people. And if it's monsters, nobody's gonna do a thing about it but us.
Soon the creatures of the night shall rule the world.
Real monsters? Us? Midnight. In the world, remember? Maybe we can be like Mask Squad instead, you know? 2 mask bombs.
We got 1035! Sit back up! Hurry up!
Or Nature Squad. The book is right. Don't you think it's all true?
By midnight...
You guys!
They won't seem so young anymore. The Monster Squad.
Wolfman's got nails.
See, what do you do with that? You're like, it's like fun, bang, bang, guns. You're like, man, the parents must have not known what to do with that movie, but Melissa and I know that movie verbatim. Like, we know every single line, and it's brings me great joy. Like how Charlie feels about 3 O'Clock High, I definitely feel that way about Howard the Duck and Monster Squad, almost equally. Monster Squad even more.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's again, I haven't seen it in a while, a couple years now, but I remember even the last time I saw it, I thought it was really cool. But you're right, it does get intense as well.
Yeah, like as adults when we watch it now, and they're like, "What if we were an ad company?" We're like, "What do we do with this?" Like, I don't know. Something amazing about that is that I getting to talk to Andre Gower and being a natural storyteller, like sometimes you could get guests who you ask them a question, they'll give you a 1-word answer, but then there's someone who'll tell you who's willing to go above and beyond, because he made this great documentary that's yet to come out, but we're crossing our fingers hoping it gets a release date, and it's called Wolfman's Got Nards, and it's about Monster Squad fans. So as a result, he knows the movie verbatim due to editing and interviews and all that stuff. So he's an encyclopedia about that movie, not because he's like, "Hey, remember me? I was in that movie," but it's essentially been a job for a few years to make the greatest documentary possible.
That's awesome.
So yeah, Andre's a historian when it comes to Monster Squad, and everybody should watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. Watch it.
Really easy to watch.
Yeah. Before we go today, man, is there anything you would like to tell your potential future audience listening right now? Watching right now?
I don't know. I hope I didn't turn anyone off from listening to High School Slumber Party. We have a lot of great movies coming up. We have quite the full schedule the next 2 months. And like I said, I'm going bi-weekly these days because I have a bit more time. But check out the archives, really, wherever you get your podcast, because we've talked about some great movies. And again, I'm just one person. It's the guests who really make the show and their passion. Because often, if they're not talking about their favorite film, they're talking about a teen-centric film that they always wanted to see, or that someone's talked about with them. Or sometimes it's movies they haven't seen in 10, 20 years, and that's so fun to revisit. Again, I just have a blast. If you can't tell by the tone of my voice how much I enjoy doing this show, then I guess it's not coming through, but I love doing it. Please check it out, and it's a blast. And Ryan, definitely you have carte blanche. Definitely want to have you on High School Slumber Party.
Awesome.
I wrote down some stuff, and you suggested some stuff, so we got to make that happen.
Yeah, I could be a resident Canadian. Like every time something's strange and Canadian, you could just open the fridge and pull me out of it. Yeah, man. Okay, so I believe that's all the time we're gonna have for today. We got to wrap in like about 10 minutes. But everybody, it's just check your Apple Podcasts, iTunes, whatever, man. High School Slumber Party. It's a great time. Brian here has a smooth voice and a nice canter as he speaks and stuff like that. It's not like me where I'm just like Porky Pig on steroids. Just I like this show. I like that. There's order. there is structure and order to this show, and it's absolutely wonderful. Nikki said in the comments much earlier that he's like, oh, I think maybe you should do an episode. Don't tell mom the babysitter's dead. That's the newest episode.
Yeah,
people.
I just did that episode.
Did it.
There you go.
Did it. Yeah. It's a connected world. We got some comments here. Just gonna make sure that we check it out. Yannick says found a podcast on Spotify and gonna start listening to it.
Thank you, Yannick. Thank you.
He found it because I called him this morning and said they told my name on a podcast. Oh my god. It makes Ryan Six Show sound so much more legit when it's not me or my mom saying it. It's great.
Well, again, what you and I, thanks to Charlie and Patrick Reed Johnson have compiled the Angus archives. So, again, bravo, high five to each other for that, because
high five.
Well, we're all on different sides. Yeah, whatever.
I think it's that side. Okay.
Yes. Well, no, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's try this. Okay. Oh, your hand's bigger than mine. 1 sec. Nope, that's too big. Oh, this is so hard.
Whatever. I don't get perspective.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, this was an absolute pleasure, Ryan. Really appreciate you having me on. Maybe if I ever come on again, I'll have a haircut, because this is my caveman quarantine look. But thank you so much.
Oh man, screw that. Even when COVID's done, I'm gonna keep letting the hair grow and rub peanut butter on my head until I'm more hair than man. And then everybody could call me Cousin It.
What a plot.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy, Brian.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one, bud. You know how to log off?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So that was Brian, everybody. Brian Rodiguez, High School Slumber Party. What a good dude. And seriously, I've been listening to his episodes the last couple of weeks. Really cheered me up. So follow that. Follow their Facebook page. Follow them on Instagram. He's just a dude like me, doing his best, trying to bring some joy, and I think he does a great job. It's really lovely. I'm literally a fan of his show, and I think you would be too, because a lot of love is put into that. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. This has been great. Some of my favorite people are in this chat. I am flabbergasted that you have all spent your entire Thursday night with me, and big thanks to Brian again. We shall see you next time, and next week we'll have a nice fancy intro, a little bit more structure, and I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. This tech is new, and I'm just having such a good time. So thank you very much for once again making my week by allowing me to yak uncontrollably for like 2 hours. So have yourselves a good day. Follow me on Instagram. It's Ryan Stick Show, and say you look weird in those pants, or get a haircut, hippie, or something like that. It doesn't have to be terms of endearment, just as long as there's more followers. And check out my show, UMA YTV. This week we had the amazing Vanessa Lange, and my friend Lee, who runs a comic book store called Comico, one of the first comic book stores in Montreal, period. he was her neighbor, and he hooked it up, yo. So have yourselves a great night, everyone. Cheers. As Yannick says, cheers. Good night. Bye.